The Vatican. It is the smallest country in the world with only about 825 people. It is located within the city of Rome and naturally borders only Italy. Here, the head of state is the Pope, the political and spiritual leader of all Catholics on the world. The country also has one of the oldest armies in the form of the Swiss Guard, which provides security. This, of course, is a symbolic army of about 140 people. The country is governed by a theocracy and, as just mentioned, the head of state is the Pope himself. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see our videos first. With the division of Christians following the separation of East and West in the 11th century, the Papacy came to head the Western Church, or officially the Roman Catholic Church. From that moment on, this small monastic community became extremely wealthy and began to influence the entire European world, installing and deposing monarchs and changing the borders of states. During the Middle Ages, when religion played such a large role in people's lives, the Church managed to impose its opinion on the people to such an extent that at one point the medieval inhabitants of Europe became puppets ruled by the Church. If they do not obey, they are punished. Lynching, torture, excommunication and death are just some of the punishments for disobedience, and the Church does not hesitate to punish them. In the dark years of the Middle Ages, when literate people were in great short supply, the Church took advantage of people's ignorance, amassing vast wealth across Europe. Some twisted laws written by the Vatican even sell places in heaven, with the condition that every Christian supports the Church with tithes and donations, thereby securing a place in heaven. In exchange for gold, silver and money, priests even forgave people's sins, and those who resisted this perverted teaching were declared witches and burned at the stake during the Inquisition. According to lovers of conspiracy theories, today in the Vatican archives, there are documents of extremely important historical value, but only a few priests can enter there, and access is absolutely prohibited, because there are incriminations for almost all owners and heads of state, as in the past and today. Of course, we have no way of knowing, so we assume that this is a well-made story. So as not to bore you with more history, I will switch to the present, and I promise you will make some interesting videos about the Vatican historically. Today, the leader of the Catholic Church is the Argentine Jorge Mario Bergoglio, or by his spiritual name, Pope Francis. He was the first non-European since Gregory III to head the Vatican in the 8th century, and was born in Syria. Francis assumed the Holy See in 2013 when then Vatican leader Benedict XVI stepped down, due to his inability to fulfill his duties due to his advanced age. The official language here is Latin and Italian, but since the monks living here are from all over the world, many foreign languages are also spoken. The Vatican passport is only given personally by the Pope, and it can be revoked by him at any time. Despite its small size, the country receives more than 6 million tourists every year, which is also one of its main sources of income. The other income of the Catholic monarchy comes from the many real estates they have. In Italy alone, the Vatican owns over 4,000 properties, receiving hefty sums from their rents. The money received from rents is exempt from tax, but the European Union has repeatedly asked Italy to pay the taxes on these church properties, which exceed 4 billion euros. The Vatican museums also bring solid revenue to the country, where you can enjoy exquisite architecture, historical artifacts, and cultural treasures from around the world. Apart from Christianity, the Vatican has become famous for some rather embarrassing facts that have come to light in recent years. The pedophile scandals revolving around the holiest place for several billion Christians caused great public indignation. According to reports, more than 1,200 people were sexually abused by priests, and in 2018 the Vatican launched a strong internal investigation to punish those responsible. Corruption is also something that is incompatible with the priesthood, but unfortunately in the Vatican it exists, and even Pope Francis has passed a law that states that no Vatican citizen is allowed to receive a gift exceeding the amount of 40 euros. Pope Francis has drawn attention to himself with some bold statements about same-sex relationships, supporting those who are different and urging Christians to respect their choices. He is also the figure behind the large-scale operations to remove pedophiles from the Church, as well as the author of a number of reforms in the Vatican that have not been changed since its founding. An interesting figure from the recent past is Pope John Paul II, now a saint. He was one of the most beloved popes, who was shot in 1981, but survived and then visited his shooter in prison to forgive him. Now moving on to the tourist attractions and must-visit places here. In this small country, there is one small grocery store, one pharmacy, one post office, one gas station and several cafes and restaurants, but here the filling station can only be used by those with local license plates. If you have planned a walk here, be sure to visit St. Peter's Basilica, the Sistine Chapel, the Vatican Museums, the Vatican Gardens, as well as St. Peter's Square. In general, if you plan to visit the Vatican, it is good to look at all the places on the internet so that you do not forget anything, because it is full of sites and is the only country that is fully under the protection of UNESCO. It is also good to know that there is a dress code here, such as walking around in tank tops and shorts are not allowed. If you like our video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel.